It's becoming a parody of itself, really. So, well, it's let me know that I've come into the van. It didn't let me know that I was breaking into the van. Anyway, that's a whole nother video. Check that one out, okay? Welcome back to the channel. One of the problems that I'm having in the van is every now and then I need power. Thanks, van alarm. I'll just turn that off. I have to log back into the app. Okay. So, one of the problems that I've been having is power in the van. I've got 375 watts of solar on the roof. I've got two 95 amp hour batteries, which I'm thinking of putting another one in, but I'm watching out for weight at the moment. Sorry about the trains. Let's see if I can do this. I don't know if that's helped at all. I've got to try and keep my weight down as much as possible, obviously. 180 amp hours of battery power isn't a great deal, but it's serviceable for my needs. After a bit of research, I figured out that I'm going to have to get an inverter. I've got an inverter. That's arrived yesterday. I've just been and picked that one up. I've looked online. It has some really good reviews and some not so good reviews. I've got an Edecoa Inverter. This is a modified sine inverter. I only did that because I just needed to keep the cost down as well. I'm not going to be running anything major in here. Everything that I've got that needs a DC charger should work fine through it. Maybe charging up some drills or just someone to plug something in if I should need to. It's not as good as a pure sine inverter, that's without question. They are most definitely better, so if you've got the funds for that, do it. This is more of an afterthought for me. I wasn't going to bother with it, but just lately there's been a couple of times where I thought, you know what, I could have just bunged a plug in. I just could have just plugged that in and that would have been brilliant. But things like charging up cameras and stuff like that and drones and so on. But I've never opened this one yet. I've literally just got it. So let's have a look what we get here. Hiya! So when I read it online on eBay, I'll leave a link to it in the description, but when I read about it on eBay, obviously there's not too many terrible reviews on there, but you wouldn't expect there to be. On the YouTube channels that I watch, some of them were saying it's absolute junk, don't go anywhere near it, and other people were saying it's absolutely brilliant. I've had it in my boat, van, truck or whatever for a few years now, and it's never let me down. So it's one of those, isn't it? It's the same with the last video. I don't know until I've tried it myself, so that's what I'm doing. Excuse me. Right, in the box I've got two smaller boxes, and in the first box we've got the remote control connector and the lead for that. You get them in there. That's actually quite handy, so you can monitor what's going on, switch it on and off remotely. And then it comes with a decent little fitting kit by the looks of it. It's not the most amount of wire, so I'm going to have to probably locate it to quite close to the battery. It's got a shed load of fuses in there. The earth lead's nowhere near long enough, but I've got some good earth points in the van that I put in myself, so that should be alright. Chuff with that. And let's have a look at this. I'll have to turn it upside down because it's... do away with that a sec. It's well packaged. It's very well packaged. I'm quite pleased with that. It wasn't expensive. I think it was about 140 quid, which is a chunk of change, don't get me wrong, but it's not in the grand scheme of things when it comes to inverters. I was looking at second-hand ones as well. I got some advice for second-hand ones. With the same with everything else, you get what you pay for, and if you go for a second-hand inverter, you don't really know what sort of life it's had, and they do have a shelf life from what I can gather, and they do, you know, you can wear them out, you can use them out. It's the same when you buy a boy racer car, you know that it's been ragged to pieces, you don't know what the inverter's been used for. So I opted for a brand new one, just so that I'm aware of its entire life, of what it's done. So it's quite a big unit, really. So I've got a user manual, and I've got, oh okay, this is quite a handy little, it's quite a handy little chart there. That's quite a handy little chair. I didn't realise that was going to be in there. So 1500 watts, 200 amp hour. I've got about 190 amp hour. So let's go between the 1200 watt. So I can have about 12 to 1500 watts, about 12 to 1500 watts of appliances running through this for about an hour. Well, that's pretty good, because if I was running something a lot lower wattage, I'd be able to run it for a lot longer. I don't need to run, I'm not running fridges or anything like that just yet. Obviously when that time comes, I'll readdress the situation and look into it a little bit further, but that's not too bad. I don't think I'm going to be having to use a food processor or anything like that for an hour straight. And I don't think anything's going to be drawing anywhere near 1200 watts for charging up the odd bits and pieces here and there. So that's, yeah, it's quite handy. Anyway, sorry, I'm procrastinating. That's quite a handy little bit of information there for me. I don't know how true it is. So basically, I'll give you a little view of the sides. It's holy and bumpy and stuff. Do you know what? I'm going to do that thing. Right, there's the sides. I'm just going to leave it at that. That's the sides, you don't need to know more than that. So there's your inputs on the back. There's obviously positive and negative terminals on the back. I do believe that there is a chassis earth point. There it is. So there's a ground point there for your chassis, because obviously the chassis is metal as well. And then on the front, you've got two 230, 240, whatever it is you want to say, AC outputs and your on-off switch. You've got the plug in the centre there for plugging in your remote control. And you've got two USB ports there as well. That's pretty handy. From what I could gather, the LCD screen isn't up to much. It doesn't give you much information, and somebody said that for the size of the screen you would expect a little bit more information on there. Not really that asked, because I'm not going to be looking at the LCD screen that much because of this. We've got this. So basically I'll get an overview of what's going on with it there anyway. So that's another thing for me to mount when I do actually build a partition here somewhere. So that's the power inverter itself. It's quite a sturdy design. I did see somebody taking the whole thing apart and complaining about some of the gubbins inside. I don't buy it to rip it apart and see what makes it tick. It's not, I've got no idea what I'm looking at. So basically all I need to know is when I plugged it in and switched it on, is it going to burn my van down, or is it going to work effectively how I want it to work? The idea will be, I'm thinking, I may, oh that's a bit, that would have been good. What will probably happen is that I will fit it in this cupboard, quite possibly up here, I think. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. I think that's not a bad shout. I can get to it if I need to plug anything in. It's quite accessible. Failing that, I'll put it on the other side. It could get mounted on there, I suppose. Yeah, so now it's a case of figuring out where I want to mount it, where I'm going to leave it. Obviously I need to change these doors because they're absolutely appalling. Solid piece of pine. It's a terrible idea for these doors, by the way. They've just bowed. So yeah, so figure out where I'm going to mount it, figure out where I'm going to put it, and then finally figure out how to actually use it. I don't think it's too difficult. I think that as long as you get a good ground, I think that as long as you've got good tight connections, you've got a good ground. Obviously there's the complaints about interference with bits and pieces and stuff like that. I can't see how it's going to be switched on enough for that to be an issue for me. So, but we'll come back to that anyway. We've got to live with it now, see how it goes. And yeah, so I'm rambling now. Let's get on with the next bit of the video, really. As always, it's another day. You'll have to excuse that, it's a tractor. See, I wasn't lying. Tractor. If you've built a van, you'll probably know yourself. If you don't have storage or anything like that, you end up with stuff all over the van. It starts to do your head in a bit. And so I tidied it up, and I'm back in love with it again. I've got the bench seat in. I do need to get that reupholstered. This needs to be fully reupholstered, so yeah. And got some bits and pieces out, but yeah, it's looking a lot better. I quite like it. Right, so the crack today is I figured out where I'm going to put the power inverter now. I'm going to tuck it down in the corner there where the batteries are. There's a space in front of the batteries, or behind the batteries, whichever way you're looking at it. This end of the battery. I'm going to screw it down to the boards behind the battery because it'll get strapped down there. I can still reach down to plug stuff in, or if I do end up blanking that off, I can put an extension through this cupboard down there. That's the plan anyway. So what I've done is, just as a precaution, it didn't come with this, but I had a spare one, so why not? People don't really rate these very highly. They, you know, they get slagged off quite a lot, but it can't be any worse than not having one. Attach this all together, put it all, and I'll show you in a sec. If this works, I'll be well chuffed. Right, so it's going to fit down in there. So basically, truth be told, I should have fitted it to this board here. I should have fitted it over here somewhere. But in all honesty, I just wanted to go with the wires that came with it. So that's what I'm doing. So there's my inline fuse there. I'm going to fit that to the wall here. I'm going to come off the other battery because I don't want it to start being used unevenly, but I don't know if that's a thing, but I'll try it anyway. Right, so I've managed to get it, it's in here now. I've got the breaker screwed on as well. It's a bit tight getting in there at the minute because I've had to pack everything away, but what I've done is I've connected, positive is going to the breaker, which then goes to this battery, and the negative is going to that battery, so it drains both of them equally. I think that's what's meant to happen. I'm not 100% sure, but I've got the rest of the drain coming off of the opposite way around. So I thought with this one, I'll go for that, and I don't know, maybe it'll drain it equally, evenly, who knows, but it's in there, it's not going to move, that's the main thing. So happy so far. This is typical of something that I want to be using in the van. It's a little blender, make a couple smoothies, you know, that sort of stuff. Before I try it out, this is the control. It's obviously got to be mounted in the van somewhere, but let's put you up here for a minute. Okay, I've got every faith. All the lights have come on. The lights on the control. Shut that door a minute. Is that too dark? No, that'll do. So the lights have come on the control. I haven't pressed that button on there yet. Apparently you can just switch it on straight from there. So what I'm going to do, that's plugged in. Let's try. Right, that's a massive win for me. That's a massive win for me. This means I can get myself a little fridge, anything like that now. I for one am happy. I for one am buzzing with that. So yeah, so that's that fitted. That's that working. That's 240 in the van. Just for reference sake as well, I've got 375 watts of solar panels on the roof. I've got 375 watts of solar. I've got two 95 amp hour batteries. That doesn't sound like a lot of amp hours. 190 amp hours doesn't sound, 190 amp hours doesn't sound like a lot. But for what I'm going to be using, I don't see that I'm going to need any more. But we'll see how that goes when I get a fridge put in. If I get a fridge put in and it starts to mess about with it too much, then obviously I'll look at it differently then. But for now, I mean, it's going to be small appliances. Small appliances and little bits and pieces, and charging the batteries here and there for a drill or what have you. So, yes! Actually really happy about that. I'm finding myself with loads of these bits now as well. Loads of these. So I'm actually going to have to build somewhere to mount them all. I've got the diesel heater one. I've got the max air fan control. I've got one for the solar power panels. But I mean, not knowing where to put these is a small problem. So what that means is I can have 2,000 watts of power, up to 4,000 burst, 2,000 watts continuous. So what I'll do is, if I can find a fridge that's a lot less than that, which of course they are, I can leave it plugged in for a duration of time and just keep an eye on what it's doing. Hopefully I'll be able to just leave it on. That would be great, but obviously maybe I've got to beef it up, I don't know, but that's a massive result. thought I'd tell you that's a massive result. Did I mention that that's a massive result? So to sum it all up this week, I've got the bench seat in. We've got a good bit of storage in under here now. I've got to drill some holes in there as handles, but which has been good. I've plumbed in the gas properly and I've put the bottle sunk it in the floor. Just to give you an idea of what I was talking about. So cut a hole there, I've got to drill a hole through the bottom, but now that can sit in there. I still have to do a dropout on the gas. I'll be doing that in the next few days. And I've got the 240 fitted. What more do I need? So that puts me in a position where I can start using the van a little bit further afield now. Obviously winter's here, but that ain't really going to stop me. We're going to do it anyway. Got a few trips away planned, so stay tuned for those because they should be good fun. I'm really looking forward to it. And now that we've got most of it in place, the rest of it's just going to be titivating with the van, tidying up a little bit here. Got to build a little cupboard in up there, just little bits and pieces now. So yeah, cheers for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll be going somewhere to do something, but I don't know what yet. But stay tuned. We'll see you in a bit. Cheers. Love you. Bye.